Media Prime TV with Prime on my Media Prime. I am Kum Leonard for presentation. We this evening are going to be looking at two issues burning in Cameroon. From the southwest to the northwest across the littoral to center, far north and north Damawa regions, we increasingly are getting issues relating to chieftaincy crisis. Villagers want A, kingmakers may be wanting a B, and lots of things are happening, especially with respect to the stance usually taken by the administration, often accused of taking sides as to who becomes the traditional rulers of most of our villages. So what is not going right? Why do we find so many divisions when it comes to designating the traditional ruler of villages? Is going to be the focus for tonight's edition of the program. But we also are going to be looking at a danger as far as our educational institutions are concerned. More and more points of distractions are competing for space with our schools. Where our schools are located is becoming problematic because we find so many bars around them. We find so many gambling houses amongst other distraction points, raising many concerns as to the key motives for the creation of these schools. Is it the fact that the administration is not doing enough to monitor where the schools are being erected, or the negligent attitude of those who themselves are setting up these schools? What is the motive if actually they say they want to provide the best study conditions for our students? Why would they position them in the middle of points of distractions, which may easily take these children from the objectives for which they are going to school? We're going to be looking at these two aspects in our national life with our panelists who are with me in the studio. We have Dr. Michael Ndimancho, who is a lecturer. Good evening, Doctor. We want to express our gratitude and thank you for being part of tonight's edition of the program.
Thank you so much, Mr. Liu, and greetings to all Cameroonians and to all traditional rulers, of course. Cannot forget my own traditional rulers, and mainly to the front of Nkombin, of course, who entrusted his confidence on me to spearhead the development of the village. And of course, development is not just about the structure, the physical, it's also about the culture, it's also about conflict resolution, it encompasses, so it ties with our topic of today. And of course, when the traditional institution is well structured, there is a possibility that we will have lesser crisis there. So I greet all traditional rulers who respect the tradition, the culture of the people, and who make sure that the people, of course, are paramount. The aspirations of people are actually seen and viewed and understood, and that the selfish interests of the traditional rulers do not surmount or do not go above the overall interests of the traditional kingdom, the chiefdoms and the fondoms and the lamida. Thank you so much. Dr.
Che Evans Nde, who is also a lecturer with some universities out here in Douala, the nation's economic capital, is part of tonight's edition of the program. Good evening, Doctor. We're glad to have you.
Good evening, Mr. Liu. Good evening to all the panelists. It's once again a pleasure to be home. And I must start by saying a special greetings to my phone, His Royal Majesty Fondangwafo of Mancon. And I am pleased to be here to discuss issues relating to tradition, and most especially that which touches on education, where I also find myself being a lecturer. Thank you.
We also are going to be discussing with Prince Joel Mukage, the prince from Messager land. I'll spare you the energy to greet the people of Messager. So I will greet you all watching us from Messager and Dunga Mantung in general. Good evening. We're glad to have you.
Thank you immensely for having me, Mr. Liu. Good evening to my co-panelists. Good evening to everybody who is watching my Media Prime Television at this particular moment You've greeted my peace-loving people already, who are the people of Mr. J subdivision. To its illustrious son, Professor Fukalesus Gentry, Minister of Mines, Industries and Technological Development, who is championing development in that part of the country. To all the funds of Mr. J subdivision, most particularly to my father, Fond Thomas Kimbuse, who is a member of the House of Chiefs for the Northwest. Good topics you have tonight, Mr. Liu. Tradition we're going to look at, and education is also another aspect that we'll be looking at. I believe that the 2 hours that we have together, I'm going to, together with my co-panelists, give my modest contribution towards the topics. It's a privilege that you brought me part of your panel.
Yes, the question stands, Dr. Mancho. Why are chieftaincy fights becoming a permanent feature in our villages across Cameroon? Not only in no region is peculiar with that. We find it across all the regions of Cameroon. What are the root causes of the rising chieftaincy disputes across our communities? Tradition, politics, money, or external interference?
There are a lot. All of these actually make up what we now call the conflicts that occur in our traditional institution, be they in the fondoms, in the chiefdoms, in the lamida. All of these make up for the conflicts. And, you know, there's, first of all, what we call the succession conflicts, which, of course, a lot of it has been misunderstood, misconstrued now. An issue of succession, whereby in some traditional institutions, we know that, okay, the succession is true, is hereditary. Others know that it is another way they live from one house to the other. But things have greatly changed, you know. Now, with a lot of things that have come into play in our society today, people do no more respect that. And they do no more respect that for various reasons, you know. There is what we call the politicization of the traditional institution, where politics has come now to interfere in a lot of things that happen in the traditional institution. So we can also have to earn. But we usually say that a phone is a phone, whether it's first class, and because where I come from, whether you are a first class or second, you are a phone. Whether a phone with 50 people behind you, you are a phone. But the government has brought this issue of classification, which has brought a lot of conflicts. And you know, there's also the issue of ethnic and identity conflicts that has brought a lot of things into play. We cannot even forget the issue of religion and cultural shift. Religion has come to be able to bring a shift whereby you find some funds who are not getting into Christian churches and declaring that from now on they are born again and all of those. And when you start making those declarations, those who want to remain staunch traditionalists, conflict start. And now they start saying you are not a legitimate fund. Now the issue with the funds too, who, of course, who have deserted or absconded their villages and left the villages. You know, there is a rule in most of these fundoms where if you stay out for a particular number of years, you are considered not to be the fund of that village any longer. So the fund is not supposed to stay out, just like the president of the republic is not supposed to stay out of the country for a number of days. So the fund too has a mandate to stay in the palace for a good number of years. It doesn't have to stay there. So when these things happen, people now start questioning whether this fund is a legitimate fund. And now you find other kingmakers now who now dissociate themselves from this.
If the fund, yes. Say the fund is working at the governor's office, because I know of a fund was working at the governor's office.
My fund works at the governor's office, of course.
In the Southwest region, we have funds who are working in ministries in Yaoundé. Should they abandon what they are doing?
No, not abandoning, but working in the governor's office or in a ministry doesn't give you to say that you have to stay out. They have leave. The funds, they have leave, annual leave, at least 2-3 years, weeks, and they are supposed to go back and touch base.
Now,
this is important.
Now, Dr. Che Evans, has modern political influence weakened traditional conflict resolution mechanisms in the village? Because today we find these conflicts running for years or decades unresolved, and one wonders that if we have real notables, qualified elders in the villages, how come it is becoming the more difficult to sort out issues relating to chieftaincy in villages?
Thank you, Mr. Liu. I'll start by making this comment. Politics is in almost every sector in this country.
Okay.
There is politics, even in some churches. there is politics in some villages as far as how issues are being run or managed. So, with the advent of modern days politics, it has what I'll call a negative impact on our traditional rulers, of course. Because I want to first establish the fact that engaging into politics is not bad for a traditional ruler. But engaging into what I want to call partisan politics is what might be bad. Because the moment you engage into what I call partisan politics, already there is this divide between you and the ruler and your subject, who might not share the same political opinions or views with you. So if you must engage into politics, then it should be about engaging in a way that you want to maybe portray or perform your political right, such as maybe the right to vote, and why not freedom of expressions and the likes. So on that note, if we have traditional sectors or chiefdoms or fondoms nowadays with a lot of problems, and we see people that we really think are capable and can solve those problems, but they are unable to solve them, then we need to start asking questions and putting question marks. And if we carry our research thoroughly, we will end up seeing that it is as a result of great political influence that has eaten up the roots of every fabric in such a way that people know the truth, they know exactly what needs to be done, but due to their political views, due to their personal gains, which they want to safeguard or protect, they find themselves derailing. So in a nutshell, we cannot deny that politics or partisan politics per se doesn't have a negative influence as far as managing traditional affairs is concerned. However, traditional rulers are first of all citizens of a country, and as any other country, they have a right to also partake in the political affairs of the country, because it is a way of building the country itself. Thank you.
Okay, but you have a problem with playing partisan politics, because according to you, it also plays into dividing the villagers who may be militating in different political parties. It's also going to be difficult for us as a militant of a party to understand and accept persons who are opposing you because you belong to a different party. As a traditional ruler, say you are a traditional ruler who is SDF, and you see anybody who is in the CPDM as maybe difficult to be objectively capable of accepting that this guy is also working to bring a positive change to the nation through his or her political party. But can we also say the political elites are helping to make it very difficult for these chieftaincy issues to be resolved?
I will not want to look at it that way, Mr. Leo.
Yeah, because once they clearly identify and endorse a side, it is passing a message to the population or those who may necessarily not see things from the prism of the traditional ruler.
Like I said, Mr. Leo, I will not want to. It's true that elites have a role, especially some elites who are very influential in each community, because in each community where we come from, there is someone who calls the shots. And that person's voice sounds louder than any other voice. But I think that if we want to look at the conflict within a chieftaincy today, or what is happening even in fondoms, I come from an area where a chief is hereditary. It means you don't fall from space. Elsewhere, I've seen places where people who have no links with royalty, who have had nothing to do with anything royalty, whose origin are even questioned within certain areas, have become chiefs. I think those are the ones that actually create that problem. Because, Mr. Leo, like Doc said, most chiefs today are into politics. And they enter the politics, first of all, because as Cameroonians, they have a right to belong to a political party. Secondly, as Cameroonians, they have the right to vote and to get involved in the day-to-day activities of their areas. Mr. Liu, I want to feel that if you are a chief or a fon and decide to stay clear of any involvement into politics or showing concern for an elite of your land, I bet you that your area may not tap some of the very juicy things that are coming from the elite. Because no one wants to extend a handshake to someone who doesn't buy their ideas. Everybody wants to extend a handshake with someone who buys their ideas. So I think that elites do contribute, yes, but to not to a greater extent. A chief is the custodian of a tradition. He is the person who is the number one in every land. And that is why even when you are whole within an area, once you're entering a palace, there are always some reservations. There are always some limitations to what you do. And even when there are certain discussions, you're discussing with the chief or the fon, knowing some limits that, okay, this is the fon of my land. So I think that elites do contribute, Mr. Liu, yes, but not to an extent. Not to an extent, because I think that I want to talk about the area I master, which is my area. I don't actually see them being very involved into choosing who becomes the chief. Because like I said, it's hereditary. It is true that today we have a situation where we have administrators, graduates from ENAM, the DU and the SDU, playing a central role as to the official presentation of a fon or a chief. But before that one is done, to me, I just look at it is what they call in my
you raised a point. You say if the fon or the chief is not in good terms with the political elite of the area, the village risk forfeiting some benefits that were supposed to come to the village. Yeah, is the elite working for the chief or for the population? And is it the elite who designates projects in the public investment logbook, or it is the central government that directs these projects to communities?
Mr. Liu, it's a tempting question, but I know from my findings, I know that most projects that go to communities have people who lobby for. And these people are top elites because they do lobbying. Mr. Liu, I am looking at an example of a community where I come from.
Are you saying that because the chief does not respect the elite, the people should suffer?
I've not said so. That's why I said you asked me a very tempting question. And at times some of these questions, you may say something and someone misinterprets them. I'm saying that elites who are powerful, elites in an area who are really powerful, the fon is their father, irrespective of the age of the fon. I know a village in the northwest where the fon is younger, farther than me. So a political elite in that area should be in good terms with the fon. Once they're in good terms, you will notice that things will be progressing there more. But at times when they are not in good terms, which to me I don't even see it that way because he is your son. I think I want to buy what he said by saying that the fon can openly back his elite but not prove it to the people that this is where I belong. Without openly showing it that, okay, I belong here or I belong there. But the elites of an area have a lot to do in supporting their fon. Because whether we want it or not, Mr. Liu, funds in certain areas are empowered by their elite. They even make it sure that these funds don't work. Because when you have a fund who maybe works out of his village and needs to go to the village only during leave, you start asking yourself, when there are traditional rites, what becomes of the fund? And then far from that, Mr. Liu, I come from an area where I know that certain activities.
Are you talking as an informed journalist who understands how things works across the southwest, the northwest, the littoral, or you keep.
Mr. I'm making a balance. What I'm saying is
because many persons don't know your village.
Mr. Leo,
you're talking to Cameroonians, you're talking about your village.
When you pick an example before you generalize, what I'm saying here is when a phone even carries out certain assignments, like working in an office, it becomes humiliating. A phone should stay within the palace. A phone is someone who stays with his community and protects that community. Because when you start carrying certain activities, imagine you go into the governor's office and it is your phone that has to go and photocopy your documents. What message?
That is what puts food on his table.
It puts food on his table, but I know, Mr. Liu, like I've seen in other areas, the community empowers the phone. I know areas in Cameroon where...
You keep talking about your village because your village has a minister and some people...
No, in the southwest, Mr. Liu, let's talk about the southwest. It's just I don't want to call names.
Please.
When you call names, people may get angry.
Those guys, please. A division has almost 400 villages. There are villages with no top brass official. So many of them, even in the northwest. Very few, please. The northwest has not more than 5 ministers. How many villages are in the northwest? So if we were to go by a standard where the elite.
Your question was your question was on the elite.
Yes,
that was your question.
You're asking
how influential elites are. If you go into the southwest, Mr. Leo, you agree with me that in the southwest.
I ask a question to you, or that should a village suffer because the phone or the traditional ruler is not in good terms with the elite? That was my question to you.
And this is what I answered. Maybe
you didn't get it.
Mr. Liu,
went to other things.
Mr. Liu, what I'm saying is,
yes.
let me just clear it. What I'm saying here is, an elite is a son to a phone, irrespective of where they find themselves.
Okay.
And it is but normal that you send the son to go and hunt, irrespective, in all the 10 regions. Your son who is going out there is going to go and hunt to bring development back to the community. And I'm saying that if a phone or a chief is not in good terms with his children who are his elite, I fear that the development within that area, development will come. But now, when you are in good terms with your son who automatically becomes your hunter, the son goes out there and catches a lot of game and brings back to the community.
Let's look at the role of the administration in all of this. Are they the core catalysts or key factors in the many problems we find? We saw what happened in Yemen. Chieftaincy issues. The administration was hugely accused. There is a village called Wone in Meme Division. The administration and so many others. Let's take the case of, if you look at the chieftaincy crisis in Isu village out there in Fungom subdivision of the northwest region of Cameroon. The same administration is also pointed fingers, and these are just a few of them.
Yes, of course, I've talked about the role of the administration, and that's why I talked about the issue of politics, because administration is within the issue of politics that I talked about, politicization of the traditional institution, whereby most administrators have as mandate to convert chiefs, funds, and subjects into the ruling party, because this is one of their objectives. The way you are in a village and the chief is not part of the ruling party, it shows that you, the administrator, you are not doing your job, and also your job is at risk. This is what is happening. And what do they do? They now do everything possible to cajole, to convince, to lure, and to bring the funds to the ranks. I've had experiences and even talked with some people where some funds where they were promised to be given some jobs if they openly declare for a particular party. It is what is common now in our villages. These are things that we may not hide, because that's what happens now. And now with the competition that we have with chiefs and funds now, where chiefs and funds, they have their union, their meetings and all of those, and it is about projecting now what you have as a fund when you meet your other peers. And if you are there and you know that the only way in which you can really benefit is to join in the ranks, you are forced to do that. You are forced to give it to the administrators. This is what is happening. And given to the fact that the subjects have actually abandoned now the chiefs and funds to their own selves. It was not like that in the early years. The fund, you know how we call a fund in my village, we call the fund them, not you. Means that what? That's so metaphysical. Means that the fund incarnates the whole village. So you don't say the fund you, before the fund in itself is the village. True. So if you tell, let's say, I refer to the fund and say you, it's a sacrilege. But things are changing. Why was it like that? It was because the fund was a responsibility of each and every subject. But now, with the advent of modernism and politics, the fund started taking sides. Now, you get into the fund's palace, what you see is a picture of a particular party leader. This already creates a problem. That, yes, we know that the fund, as a Prince Joel said, is supposed to have his party. It is very important, just like a religious leader and any other person. But that party should be in his heart. But if you have in a village where you have 2, 3 parties, and then you decide to take sides until you even now put the photos and all of that, the signals of a particular parties in your palace, you create conflicts already in that particular level. And all of these are caused by the pressure that they have. The funds have immense pressure from the traditional rulers. And it is also because the traditional rulers now call the administrators now call the shots within the fundoms now. It's not more the funds. At first, when you had problems in a village, you ran to the fundom or to the chiefdom and you could solve the problem. Now, the administrators now who are now called the chieftain are now the one deciding for the fund on what to do, which is already a bone of contention, whereby the fund now looks up to administrators for anything that happens in a village, which was not formally so. So if you ask whether the administrators are also part of the problem, I'll say yes, they are part of the problem, in as much also as the subjects are part of the problem because they have abandoned their rules and the funds are left to themselves. At first, you know, the funds are now choosing their wives, which they have to feed. At first, and you know, now the funds choose very demanding wives now. They go for beauty. In the early years, the first time, it was not like that. Wives were given to the funds. The funds inherited the wives in the palaces. But now the funds have eyes where they choose very beautiful damsels for themselves, which they have to feed. And now the villagers, the soldiers have abandoned them. So they have to look up there now, up to the administrators and to politics in order to meet up with the daily feeding or daily upkeep of these wives that they choose who are so beautiful. So it is very, very important to talk about this, that conflicts in in the villages and fundoms and chiefdoms cannot be talked about without saying the role that the administrators they play within. Knowing too that now the funds are that at any moment a minister of territorial administration or a DO can get up at any moment and say, you are no more the fund or the chief of the village. Thank God that cannot happen in my place. Because if it happens in Noni, nobody would ascend that throne. Will not. And because what we do, what happens, is that when you are fighting for a fundom or a chieftaincy title in my area, well, it is given to you. When you fight, it is given to you. Because we are still upholding that traditional institution, which is very, very metaphysical, whereby when you fight, they give it to you. And what happens to you is solely your responsibility. Because it always happens. It always happens. When you take it, when it is not yours, it happens. But it is different in other areas, whereby why in my place is hereditary. In some areas, a chief is chosen because of what he has. Okay, this is what we have to know.
Now, is these problems not also arising because the authorities, the administrative authorities are playing the more into designating who becomes the chief? We have cases where the person that the administration wants to be chief becomes chief. Is that not where also the problem is?
Yes, Mr. Liu. It all boils down to what doctor is trying to say, influence.
The influence of
yes, the influence of the administrators, who most of them probably are subjects of that community. But now my worry is this, because even if a community is blessed with administrators, the question is, where has patriotism gone to? Because just to cue in with what my co-panelist here was mentioning, yes, that the funds need to align to the dictates of the administrators or the elite, influential elite, so that they can get whatever. I start asking myself, if I am an influential elite of my community, where has patriotism gone to that I need to, win over my fund before I can engage or bring development in my community? So you see, when we start looking at things from this direction, it's not really the best, because I want to think that patriotism should be at the center of it all. Now, to come back to your question, it is true the administrators in most communities, they are the ones who want to always pick who will lead or who will be maybe the chief or the fund in a particular community. And they do this for various reasons. Like Dr. DiMaggio said, it is mostly for political gains. But then, you as the subjects, you as the elites of such a community, where have your traditional values gone to? That you have to subject yourself to such dictates from the administration. And also, I start asking myself, what is the place of the law as far as all of this is concerned? Are the administrators also acting within the scope of their authorities, or they are acting ultra-virus? Because we need to understand that there is the law and there are customs and traditions which also form what we can call source or part of the law. So if these administrators are bringing in people that they want to designate as chiefs or funds, the question is, are they working within the ambit of the law, or they are doing things which are contrary to the law? Because if the law permits the administrators to be able to designate like what commonly obtains in the Southwest region, then I want to think there is no problem there. But if the law forbids them from doing such things and they find themselves engaging in issues relating to tradition, then I want to look at it as being problematic. Yes, that's how I look at the role of administrators in designating chiefs and funds in our communities.
What role should government administrators play in this process? Neutral arbitrators or active regulators of succession?
There should be neutral arbitrators. An administrator is someone who comes, if he's not part of that area, is someone who comes to meet a people who had their customs and traditions. Now, it becomes somehow complex, like I said before, where it is the administrator who comes up with an official document to read to the public that, okay, Dr. Nzimancho, you are the, he's even the one who presents you to the public, that you are the new chief of this area. That's what the problem is. But normally these are people who are supposed to stay out of traditional issues.
Yeah, but that is done after the due process has gone through. It's just coming to formalize.
Mr. Liu, like I said, this topic is a very complex topic, because there are certain areas and certain places that when you start saying and calling people's name, it will not be good. I'm saying that even during that due process, what is done in the night? We know people who have been made chiefs who had nothing to do. The village never even recognized them. Is the president of the National Assembly not a chief? Is Jacques Famdongo not a chief? They're all chiefs. Did the people identify with them? I'm looking at an area, Mr. Lee, I'm looking at the situation.
You should only raise a problem if you master their tradition.
But we saw the people.
That shows that they are not ripe.
The people, when the people come out to protest, what comes in mind? If they want to make you the chief of your area, and your people say you are not, because it's a people, you're not falling from space. When they want to make you a chief, the people of that community identify first of all with you. And it's true that there are kingmakers who do this process before the official presentation is done. But now, Mr. Leo, I think that far from the Northwest, where I see how there is a kind of hereditary process, elsewhere, what I've seen about chiefs and chiefdom is that at times it just goes to the best person who can lobby. And we even have areas where they just create a small community that is not even up to a quarter. And that community has a chief. And when there is a meeting, they say all chiefs of that area, you also go there because you're also a chief. But now, you're even having people who cannot even measure up to a small quarter in another area. So I feel that, Mr. Leo, we have seen the divisional officers playing, or the administrators as a whole, playing a key role. When you go during official ceremony in our areas, who takes the last position? It's the administrator. Other people come and wait for him. He comes last, and once he comes, it's end of arrival.
Okay.
It tells you that at the end of the day, they, administrators, have a great role to play. But like I said, which we're not too comfortable about an area master, and even Dr. Nzimancho's area, which I should know even where it comes from Mancon. These are areas that I've seen.
Okay.
That for you to be a chief in this area or a fund, there are lots of processes that you go through. He said something which I've seen in other areas, Mr. Liu. There are people who come up and want to take chieftaincy through other means. I know people who have been chiefs in areas that I know very well and have been there for 1 week and 2 weeks and they disappeared. Because you do not. That is a sacred place. There are a lot of things that happen within a palace.
Okay.
That if they put you there, that is not your place.
Okay.
I bet you will not survive the heat.
Okay. For the case of the traditional ruler of Mada and the case of the Minister of Higher Education, which you just mentioned, we actually cannot take responsibility over that because we don't have what it takes to
say what understand,
understand how the succession process goes through in their respective.
But we saw where they were installed at the National Assembly. Are funds installed in offices?
No. You are talking about something else. You're talking about something else. Please, for one case, there was the upgrading of the village from third class to second class, and plans to take it to first class. Okay. So that is where the problems are not necessarily.
In my area, it's not done like that.
Yes,
it's not.
No. But the upgrading is done by the administration. It's not your village that decides to upgrade. Yes,
and
you want to
install you in your office.
Yes, Mr. Liu.
No, they were already installed. They are already traditional rulers.
I just want to comment on that by saying that I think the best way to solve this problem, having influence of the administrators into issues of tradition, is simply what I want to tag separation of power. Yes, because I want to believe that in as much as we have administrators within a particular community, that community or village per se, it has its long-standing customs and traditions. But now, how do we get to say that the administrators, this is their area of command, or this is the extent to which they can influence decisions in this area? I think that is where the greatest problem is. How do we separate?
Unfortunately, they are all over.
Yes, because how do we separate the role of the administrator in meddling into traditional affairs? Because you will meet the administrators. Of course, they'll remove long text or documents showing you, which justifies the fact that they are not acting ultra-virus, which justifies the fact that they are acting within the scope of their authority. So I want to think this goes back to the legislators.
Doctor,
let them
even in a community, people who come and take decisions. If I'm fighting a parcel of land with Dr. Nzimancho, an administrator comes and says it belongs to him, whereas he came and made that land. The person who should take the decision, who should that be?
Because
a traditional ruler who grew up in that community.
If you may permit me to go further, you know, we have issues where we have seen a conflict between customs and the law itself. Meaning the law is saying something else, and maybe customs of a particular area also saying something else. And I just want us to understand that as far as the Southern Cameroon High Court laws of 1955 concern, it states clearly that any custom which goes contrarily to the written law should not be uplifted.
Okay, should not be uplifted. Now, these conflicts, are they eroding the powers and respects of the chieftaincy or traditional authorities in our respective villages?
Of course, they are demeaning our traditional authorities, which is something that has to be shamed and actually condemned. Because now we call the traditional authorities auxiliaries of the authority, which is not supposed to be so. For many people who have bought lands around areas, even here in Douala, when you get a land, the first certificate that you get is certificate coutumier, and it's from the chief. Of course, it means that if that certificate is not there, is not given, you cannot do the land title, which is important. Already recognizes that the chief is the one heading the land at the forefront of everything on the land. But then when it comes now to the administration, they are actually, not recognized as those powerful entities, traditional entities, who are supposed to call the shots. And this is even where much of the problem comes from. Because administration, and that is why I loved the British indirect rule so much during colonialism. They did the indirect rule because they recognized the rule of the chiefs and the fonds. That's why they ruled their people through the chiefs and the fonds. It was important. And they recognized that if you go through the fonds, they had respect. I mean, at that time, they had respect. A lot of respect indeed. When the fonds summoned you, you knew that, okay, something was boiling. And in my village, you usually say that even if you are a robber, a thief, or whatsoever, and people, you are being actually sorted after you, people, they want to kill you, and you run into the arena of the fondom, you are safe, because the fondom is regarded as a stainless and that kind of an institution whereby it is for peace within the village. But now because people have come with the administration, modern administration, and bypassed that, we have increased the conflict within the villages because, one, there's disrespect of that traditional institution. And once there's that disrespect from the local community, you know that things cannot go well in the villages. Now, even the small gendarmerie is more than the fondom or the chiefdom. Even a commissariat is more than the fondom of the chiefdom. And that's why people now run from the fondom and they go to commissariat or go to the gendarmerie. And now even so a case where a commandant summoned a fund to the gendarmerie, it is not supposed to be so. And it means that what? The authority of the funds and the chiefs has been sliced, and sliced very woefully. And this is something we need to come back to. If actually we want to have communities that have that kind of that equality, that love, that respect that we usually have, then we need to come back to this. And I know that no government will succeed to rule a people if it disregards the power of the traditional authority. You'll find that there will always be conflicts. Nobody will leave the central administration to go and solve a problem in call. Even if the DO is there, the DO does not actually master exactly what contains in that local village. And that is why it needs, and they now call a name, auxiliaries to the authority. I mean, that name is too small to give to the funds. The funds actually are the chieftains. But now the chieftains are who? The DOs. Of course. And this now slices that authority that the funds have. And because it slices the authority, because they are now running after some gain, economic gains. Because there is now competition between the funds. Now we have these issues.
Now, do we also see these conflicts exacerbated amongst the people because of the stance of the fund, who are the elites of the land? An elite increasingly is someone who has political and administrative power. Meanwhile, there are so many big opinion leaders, influencers, and very important persons within the community, civil society guys who are left in the lurch. And because of this, it generates frustrations amongst themselves, who think that the funds and the chiefs only want to identify with a particular class, and actually would want to oppose anything that the fund or the chief does seen as coming from a select class of people?
Yes, Mr. Liu, that is a very pertinent problem. Because in most villages, you always hear this elite.
The political elite, the elite. And those who are really the drivers of development in the village are
not even the elite.
Yes. But they are elite.
No, because the question is, who is an elite here?
Yeah, that's the problem.
Because in most communities, they look at elites to be those who can pull the development per se. Yes, it's about those who can pull the development strings, like what our co-panelist here was saying. Yes, and if you are able to pull the development, of course, you are an elite. But now we forget the golden problem. Not all development comes hitch-free. There are some developments that flow with a lot of problems. And when the problems get on the table, how do we solve them? Who are those competent to solve these problems? Do we consult those people? Because I want to think that we have elites who are political elites. We have elites who have the force or the power to pull development. And we have elites who have the knowledge, the wisdom to solve problems. But in our communities, those who are blessed with this knowledge and wisdom to maybe solve problems or give opinions as far as conflicts are concerned are most often than not being left out. But those now who can pull the strings for development are those who are most often than not seen, whining or discussing with the funds per se. And this is a problem. Because I don't want to look at an elite from a perspective of what is it you are giving physically to that community. I want to look at an elite both from that angle and also the intellectual contribution. Because every community needs intellectuals for it to also sustain. The sustainability of a community does not only depend on maybe physical structures or roads, water. The government itself can give those things. So if the government decides to take up its responsibility by giving the roads, giving the water, giving every other amenity, then where do we put the elite? It means we will be left to say this community does not have elite because the government is doing the job. So we must redefine who we want to tag the name an elite of a community. It should not necessarily be politically oriented. It should not necessarily be someone who is from party A or party B. It should be somebody who can impact that community. And the impact here can be economically, socially, politically, and why not even spiritually? So that's how I look at it, Mr. Liu.
Good evening, Mr. Liu. Dufi Julius is watching from Ezeka Town. I greet you all in the studio. Good evening to you and to all of you also watching us from Ezeka. Good evening, Mr. Liu. For me, Mr. Liu, the administration adjusts to confirm the village rulers given by the villagers. Martin G is watching us from Widikum. That is in Momo division of the Northwest region. Now, what reforms should be put in place, Dr. Ndimancho, to reduce the chances of these conflicts? Because it starts most often at the selection process.
Yes, one of the things that, that has actually is igniting this conflict is the differences that we have in the status of the funds.
Okay.
Yes. That is why some people actually are envying what is happening. I really love that we go back to the traditional institution of governance, and that if we have a fund, it is a fund. To me, the issue of stratification of fundoms or funds, hierarchy, is a non-issue. It creates a lot of conflict within the fundoms. And now, a lot of people, within, who are going for economic purposes are eyeing what is happening and they are envying what is happening. It is important that we recognize, let the administration recognize the funds and the fundums. It is important to recognize. But to recognize and say that you are a bigger fund than the other fund creates a big problem. Yes. This should come back to, I mean, I'm talking from point of view of where I come from. But because whether you are the first class fund or second class fund, to us, it makes no sense. You remain the fund. But in some areas, that is actually something that some people carry, on their shoulders, on their pedestals, and they go about with it.
Yeah, but how does that cause a fight within the village? Take the case of Wone village in the southwest region. The issue there is who becomes the chief, the traditional ruler of that village. Take the case of Mayemen. The issue is the conflict is between those contending to become traditional rulers of the village. The administration may be playing in favor of A, and then the population comes out. I have been following up most of this.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, but how do we stop it?
Yeah, because now there is a difference. Now people do not get into those positions because of their cultural love for the village. They are going for the economic love of it. It is very important to note this, that if it was really for the shouldering of the powers and the difficulties and that goes with that, responsibility, many people will not long for it. It is true that, yes, culturally, some people are prone to culture, they love culture, whatsoever. But let me tell you, the increased causes of these conflicts because of what goes with that particular title of the fund and what the fund gains from the administration or from the government. And I also talk about the resources that comes with you becoming a fund in some areas. We have some areas which are like township areas who have, areas are very lucrative, natural resources are there, and they ride in cars, not because of what the subject give them, but because of what they get from the natural resources. In these kind of areas, they are prone to have conflict because people are going to be ending what is happening there. It is very important to know this. And when you find that in a village where, the administration comes and they broker deals and they choose A instead of B, now you begin to ask yourself, there is a reason why the administration is intervening and choosing A in place of B. And you've seen, even the villagers, they come out to protest. Why are the villagers protesting? They are protesting because they have seen that the administration too has an interest in that choice that they are making. We should leave the villagers and the kingmakers, what we call the kingmakers, who decide who the fund is. Leave them to do their job. Don't come because of the favor that you have or because this fund has accepted to rule, because some deals are broken behind the scene. This is one thing we don't know, that when A is chosen in place of B, a deal has been broken behind. It is clear. We should talk about this thing. It is not just by mistake that the administration will come and say, okay, we are intruding this person. No. A lot of things have been done behind the scene. And a lot of concessions have been done. The new person who is chosen by administration has bowed down to so many things. And the villagers, they are always very wise. They see it ahead and they tell you, okay, this is the kind of deal you have broken with these people. We are going to impeach you and this fund is not going to roll us. This is what happens. That when did it become that it is the administration telling people that this is the fund that we need? So it means that already there is, the selfish gain that is being actually projected, and that is why that happens. And the new funds that come in, when you look at them, the funds that are chosen by administration, the handwriting is on the wall. Look at what they do, and you understand that it is purely for selfish reason, economic reason, for competitive reason, and all of those. Why did you ask yourself why most ministers or most government men in some areas, once they become those in those positions, they become chiefs? We should ask ourselves those questions because that's what is happening. Most ministers in some areas, once they are appointed, they either become chiefs or become notable in the village. So it means that there is an interest behind it.
They become elites.
Elites who become chiefs or whatsoever.
Okay. Okay, we move straight to our second topic for tonight. We hope that sanity is going to return in our respective chiefdoms and fiefdoms in Cameroon, and that the population is going to find reason to dialogue and make peace with the respective traditional authorities, and that traditional authorities themselves should see reason in what the people are saying for peace to reign and for development to follow, to drive the people towards their desired destiny. Our second topic for tonight has to do with education in danger. Bars and gambling spots are increasingly becoming the closest neighbors to our schools. Is that the observation you have of the schools that operate in Douala, where you lecture? No, he just spoke, so he can't say. Yeah.
I've spoken twice. I felt that maybe I'm no longer part of
No,
the
you've spoken
panel.
twice also.
No.
You've spoken twice. Just
Yes, Mr. Liu. In fact, when I visit most universities across Douala here, I keep asking myself questions. What went wrong? What is happening? Are we really, in fact, because the reality is that everywhere you find a university, I don't know how these things happen. It's like automatic. You must see bars, you must see gambling spots, and even prostitution centers, just across. So it's becoming a normalcy. And I've been asking myself, what is happening? Is it that these gambling houses, these bars are now part of the university structure, or they flow with it in order to make it have its stand? Because right from the University of Chang, where I graduated from, we have the bars there. It's not like it's only private universities. Okay, we have the bars there. You move to the private universities across here in Douala, we have bars. And I start asking myself this question, who is the culprit? Who is to be blamed for all of these things? And in the course of that, I will blame one. I blame the state. Two, I blame some of these directors or coordinators of the universities. Three, I blame even the owners of these bars and these gambling centers around universities. Now, about the state, I want you to make this make sense to me, that the state is conscious of the fact that this is a university milieu. This is where students pass every day going into amphitheaters, going into classrooms to study, to acquire knowledge. And they have to pass through maybe bars, skip over broken bottles, and so on and so forth before getting into classrooms. When you're moving or getting towards Chang, the greatest or the biggest billboard you will see, it's, I'm sure, unless they remove it, it's an advert of wine and things like that. But that happens to be a university community. But just look at what is so glaring as an advert.
You are raising.
So I, when I'm on the government, I'm like, the government needs to step in. It's about time the government stepped in and do something about this, because it's so alarming and it's so normal in such a way that people do it every day, and there is no remorse for it. So the government needs to step in. I don't know how, but they need to ensure that these bars are removed and sent far off from our universities, be it private or public. Now we move to these bar owners. They themselves, you need to have a sense of patriotism. Yes. You need to have a sense of patriotism. I understand you're doing business, and the students themselves, they're the greatest consumers of the beer. But then you should not bring it right at the doorstep of the universities. Take your bars, kilometers away from the university. After studies, students or whoever, they will still meet you there. And they will study. And they will drink. Even some of these lecturers, before moving into classroom, you bypass them in drinking spots. Imagine a student, prior to you going into the classroom, you see your lecturer, who is to handle a course for you maybe in some few minutes, holding 3-3 expo and maybe waving at you, and a few minutes later he's standing in front of you lecturing, and maybe alcohol smelling all over him. I mean, how do we reconcile this? So I just want to think that we should be responsible first as the lecturers in knowing that it is not normal. We should not normalize the act of maybe consuming alcohol in front of students. And the worst case is that some of the lecturers go and consume this alcohol, inviting the students.
Meet us overside.
Meet us overside there, and they come and
you are raising an issue. You are asking these bars to be taken away, and you're asking government to ask these bars to be taken away from schools. You are even questioning the bar owners why they would bring bars out. Yeah, but the question is, when you look at all the universities in Douala, Prince Joel, is it the bars that made them there, or it is institutions that are struggling to fix themselves in the middle of bars? Because even not only universities, secondary schools and nursery schools, is it the schools that are coming to fight space for space with the bars, or it is the bars that are meeting them there?
Mr. Leo, you spoke as though you read my mind. Eh?
Okay.
Because I'm not a school proprietor, but I know that for you to have an authorization to establish an institution, you need to show proof of land. You need to also show proof that that land is in a conducive environment, void of noise. When you have institutions today that are implanted right beside a bus station, it means that even if the bar is not there, the noise alone that is coming from the bus station is going to perturb studies. And most of the institutions we have today, we have people who go and get a 4-room apartment, somebody's house. They came and made a bar. The bar was there. It was somebody's house. So once the person packed out, an institution comes, takes maybe the 4-room or 3 rooms even, divides it, cuts it into different, they even share with plywood. So they just share and keep students. Progressively, as that first year they get an enrollment, they now go to look for another building that can go with the enrollment. So I think that, Mr. Leo, most of these institutions came and met bars. It's not as if the bars came and met them. I'll give an example. I went to a high school where from town to go to the school was a distance of 200 francs CFA.
That's how schools were located in those days.
Okay, it was 200 francs from town to school, which means that once they saw you around, even out, you had no other reason to give, you were out of campus. But today we have institutions, because most people who open schools today, Mr. Liu, the truth is most of the proprietors, they do not open school because they want to educate Cameroonians. It is a source of income. It's somebody's business. So it goes to open an institution and wants to make profit, quick profit. And
you have to locate it where
you want to locate where it's accessible. That is it, accessible. Where people will not
come and buy.
come and buy. So most people even look at institutions as a source of business. And that is why, Mr. Liu, I think that I will not even blame the institutions, like a doctor was looking at. I would rather look at the government policy. Now, before you want to open an institution, they will tell you that the delegation of the ministry will send some persons to come and do feasibility studies, whether you have land space. Most institutions don't even have land there. Like I said, they just go and take 3 and 4 rooms and start dividing. So I think that if we had a stronger policy that, first of all, ensures that before you want to open an institution, the institution should be in an area that is void of noise. Secondly, the system should also take to consideration that before you want to open an institution, Mr. Leo, you cannot open an institution. This is an institution and this is a drinking spot beside. And that was looking more at the aspect of even the bottle part. There is one of 100 francs that is even very cheap and easier, where students, before even getting to campus, they have put it in their bags.
Fighters?
Yes. And I think, Mr. Leo, that if we had more stringent measures where there are thorough checks that are done before students get access into classrooms to ensure that some of those things are not in their bags. And secondly, if what stringent measures to ensure that an institution should be in an area, Mr. Liu, that is accessible for studies. Look at the institutions we had before. You will agree with me that most of these institutions were in areas or are in areas where before you even left and went to school, the distance that you trekked, you first of all needed to have that love to go and study. But today what we have is you cannot count the number of private universities that we have only in Bonamusade. You cannot count those you have in Bonabe, in Douala, or even Yaoundé. We have so many of them. And at times you start asking, what criterion is even used to open them? Because I think that if I look at it today, Mr. Liu, our institutions are even struggling to outnumber the churches we have today. We have more schools than churches today, and even to bars, because everywhere you go is an institution. And I think that if we had more stringent measures that the government had put in place to ensure that before you open an institution, Mr. Liu, you should have a land space. You should also have to consideration the quality of the teachers that are coming there. But what do we have today? Since most people look at it as a source of business, is someone who opens a school, to me, is not different from someone who opens a bar or someone who goes to open a restaurant. Why? Because it is business. I know of an institution here in Douala where the proprietress told her teachers that I'll only employ you depending on the number of students you're going to register in the institution. Because I am not here to talk a certificate. It is not the certificates that built the institution. So I feel that if the government took to consideration the different ways to create an institution, we will not be where we are today. So I'm not blaming the parents, I'm blaming the government.
What is the core of the problem, Dr. Dimacho? You want to add? But
yes.
Just be brief.
Okay, yes. Mr. Leo, this issue of we need to understand that there is that schools, institutions themselves, they are pull factors to development. Because you can go and open a university somewhere in a virgin land, let me put it that way. But before you know it, development, people start coming closer to it. People start coming to it. So the bars themselves, they move closer to the institutions. It's not only as if the institutions, they are going where we have.
Are you not simply agreeing with him? Yeah, the problem is what you are saying. When you look at where GHS Womb is, the school is here, but the school acquired enough land that forbids persons from intruding into it. When you go to GTHS Womb, you see where it is. It is located. You go to GBHS Womb, you understand? The problem is they acquire enough land to the extent that even if people were to encroach, they are limited. Now, when you buy 300 square meters of land somewhere, in a developing area, what do you expect? Is that not where the problem is? When somebody says, I want to create a school, Dr. Ndimacho, and gives the motives, the vision, and everything, now, how do the authorization process go through? Are there no persons who come and see where this school is supposed to operate, and even 5 years down the road, come back to inspect and ensure that this school said they were going to have a playground, they were going to have a canteen, they're going to have a tennis court, they're going to have all of these things, and then the security, it is in a secured land where it is fenced. Yes.
Yeah, I think you are right. There's a process to authorizing an institution, which many people do not know. First, the site, it is inspected. Secondly, there's what we call certificat de bâti. Yes, means that what? You must have a certificate to build an educational institution in a particular place before you have the authorization to run the school. So it's a whole process on its own. But people overrun the process because of corruption. Yes, because people do not more follow the process in which it's supposed to follow. Because you know somebody in Yaoundé, you just get to Yaoundé and you acquire all at the same time. They even authorize the school without knowing where the school is going to be pinned. This is what happens. And at the final analysis, you have a squeezed kind of a campus because people are doing the business, is market. You come and squeeze a school, a particular place where you see that it's a neighborhood. Yeah, because you see a lot of people are built here. You are calculating that, okay, you have this number of children coming from the neighborhood to your institution. But then there is another issue that we have to talk about. We are living in a digital world, Mr. Liu, whereby the youths are very, very connected. When you talk about games of chance, gambling, and all of those, they are connected, and you cannot stop this. The youths, with the love that they have first for football, And then the way every youth now has an Android phone, they want to make good use of it in terms of gambling.
Yeah, but they have to go and cross-check with these booths around. When you bring them around the school, you also facilitate the whole process.
Yeah, that is true. But we are living in a country whereby they don't care where you set your business. They care what they come and take from there as taxes. It is very, very important, because we are only talking about games of chance and all of those. Even in our own local quarters, where you find a way, some people set their businesses, and you find taxation officers coming to take taxes from those people, and you know that those places where they set the businesses, they are not the right places. So it is a general problem that we have, and the school or the educational institutions are just victims of our bad governance that we have. So you know that, of course, when you for students, these games of chance and all of this, they attract them because it's get rich fast. And when you pin all of those things in an area where they are students, you know that they are the first customer. Because one of the things that we should be declining is the moral decadence that we have in Cameroon, because that's what the cause of it all. Where you have youths who want to get rich fast, who go to school and do not concentrate in school. I got an information about a manager of a bank who sent a child, and the child was studying in London. But the child didn't actually go to school, but each year the child was taking a lot of money from him. At the end of it all, when they investigated, they saw that the child didn't even go to school, but he has spent quite a lot of money. So the youths of today are having that zeal, that unquenching thirst for issues that get, and there's also this issue of competition that we must. So it's a moral overhaul that we need to make. You have ever asked yourself why institutions in Cameroon, when they are graduating, they institute the issue of ROPS? It is not just for the beauty of it there. It is because it was studied today there are a lot of competition, that if you allowed every student to graduate and come in his own normal dress, there will be this issue of competition where some students will actually dress more elegantly, and it will cause some moral trauma in other students. So it is an issue we have to overhaul. And like Prince Dre said, there's the issue of licenses and which are not restricted. They just give licenses, and those places are there, and the government knows that those places are there. And what is more, around those areas we have a lot of nightlife. There are a lot of nightlife where students who gamble and do those things, they like to enjoy the nightlife, and those things are there. The nightclubs, the bars, and all of this, they are there, and everybody is just watching. So you know that alcoholism, first of all, is a coping mechanism for the youths, and you get addicted very much with gambling and alcohol. I'm happy to inform that I did a course on addiction. And one of the things about addiction is that when you start doing something, perhaps there's something that pushes you to do something. One of the things that, we push these youths to do some of these things is the kind of life that they live from their homes. And some youths, actually, with the conditions that we have in Cameroon, they also want to get, with the social media, they want to be like other people. They want to be like other youths. And therefore, they get to this thing, and then they attract because of the interest that they have in the gambling. Now these gamblers, these agencies now have to come and pin their agencies around where they live, because they are looking for the ready market. When you are doing economics, one of the things that they facilitate business is nearness to the market. And therefore, nearness to the market here is that you pin your kiosk here and you have the ready market, who are the students around there. You will not go and pin in somewhere in Venkat or Trant or Lenji, where we will not have people to come and buy.
Let us assume that the government to some extent is negligent, and almost everybody was happy when this educational sector got liberalized. The private individuals were now invited to get into it and to open up most of these schools, especially at the level of universities. When you say you really want to provide a different type of education, holistic education, that beats what the government has been able to provide this far, but you bring the education in the middle of bars, that is, you look at the choices of places that have the highest number of distractions, the travel agencies are to your right, the bars are to your left, you said the prostitution joints are behind the school. What really are you doing? Does it not tell that the real motive for the creation of that school is just to catch in on the lucrative nature of the industry and not necessarily the interests of the parents and the students?
Yes, Mr. Leo, that is a sad reality. And like Prince Joel stated, they are out for profit maximization. Oh, majority, of course, it's a business. They are out for profit maximization. And they get so interested in the profit in such a way that they so quickly forget about the very reason for the opening or the creation of such an institution. Because it is disheartening to actually see that this is, maybe call it a gare routier, and you are carrying an institution of learning and you want to establish it there, where trailers will be passing, where bikes will be passing, where they'll be playing the music from the bars, and all one not, and all one not. It is a call for concern. There is no doubt about that. But again, I want to emphasize that some of these institutions actually picked virgin lands they could afford and established their campuses there. But as time moved on, these bars, these gambling centers, they came closer to it.
If you get 1,000 meters of land.
No, we had.
Let's assume that you have 1,000 meters. You've seen the school that is created around Bikoko there. You see what this guy has done. It has a football field. It has a football field. It has this. When you say, are we really serious here? Because we are talking about creating a center for learning to mold the minds of future Cameroonians, and you talk with so much ease that you go to a virgin land, you acquire 500 meters square. Are you serious?
No, Mr. Leo,
to construct what?
No. I'm not limiting it to 500 meters.
Yeah, but that is
because my point is this. Even
around Douala,
University of Chang per se, it's arguably one of the biggest universities in Cameroon, as far as land is concerned. But do you know that to the entrance of that campus, we have the bars there? Like you can, you even for your car to go up into the campus is a problem, because there are bars just left and right, photocopy documentation center, music. And even some of the classes, they are closer to that gate, so the noise leaves the road and even distracts the student. But of course, something has been done to redress that, because now lectures are taken far inside the campus to solve that problem. So I'm just trying to emphasize on the fact that some of these structures will always come closer to the university. So it is imperative too for the state to look into it, stating that such structures should not be seen anywhere close to where we have learning institutions.
Is it not because you people met the terms and the structures? Because if you people were very conscious, you are part of the university circle in Cameroon as well as Dr. Nimancho. If you people were very serious that you were bringing these centers of learning out of the cities, out of points of distraction, and the goal was to provide students with the best enabling environments for studies, you would gather yourselves, if regulatory measures were not taken, you would gather yourselves as owners of private higher institutions and walk up either to the governor, the SDO, or whosoever, and tell them that we told you that we wanted to create these centers of learning to avoid distractions and all. Like, can you regulate it? But seemingly everybody is very comfortable with the situation.
Yes, Mr. Liu, if I have to react on that again, it is true. It is true. But again, I want us to understand that if we have to solve this problem, it's a collective effort. I've tagged the state already.
Dr. Nde, do you have a school?
Yes.
No doubt. No doubt. Go on,
I tagged the state and I tagged I want to tag the parents themselves. Because we've had cases where students are being invited maybe to study in a school that is very quiet, peaceful, far off, and they'll tell, no, I cannot come there because of the distance. The parents say, no, it's told, we cannot afford transport every day for the child to be going there, so we'll look for something that is closer to the house. And in most cases, that something that is closer to the house is what we are criticizing here. So the parents need to understand that sponsoring their children or giving them quality education entails sacrifices. It should not be something that you can easily say it's closer to the house, go to campus A here, go to campus B here. Give your child the best, sacrifice, send them where you believe that they will have what we call quality. I don't need to call the names here. They'll have universities that are well structured and they find themselves in places that we don't have all of these toxicity that we are mentioning here.
Do you have the impression that these guys care about the serene environment in which students should learn? Do they care at all, or all what they care about is get the benches, get a classroom, and collect as much money as possible? If not, have we seen a situation where they gather themselves to walk up to authorities that our environments are being polluted by excessive bars and game stations?
Mr. Liu, I think just 100 francs from where my media prime is, you will go where lots of institutions are located, private institutions in Bonamosade. Is they care about the education of their children? No, it's business. Because this is the road, this is the school. And all through that area are bars. And since majority of university students do not wear uniforms, how then do you distinguish between someone who was actually coming for a class and someone who was coming to a bar? I just feel, like I said before, Mr. Liu, that most proprietors, if not all, do not open institutions with the objective to train Cameroonians. Maybe Doctor is one of those rare proprietors who may have opened his with the intention of molding future Cameroonians. But when I look at most institutions, I just have the impression that the first or the raison d'etre behind most of the institutions that we have is because they want to make money and fast money. Because when you look at the location of most of these schools, you have cited an institution, Mr. Liu, that is around Bikoko. If you look at the millions that guys invested, I doubt if he can make it even in 20 years' time. Yes. But you have people, like I said, you even talking of some people go and buy what is 50 meters square. 300 meters square, they have tried. I know institutions that are private institutions that came and took over a garage. Transform it within the schools, universities, October. They use September and children are coming in October, they are still completing the building. Now, you start asking yourself whether this institution actually had that authorization from the ministry. Because if at all they had, one of the conditions is show proof of land and show proof of construction. Once you must have constructed, then you can go along with the opening. So I just feel, Mr. Liu, that most of our proprietors who have opened institutions, the objective of doing so is not to actually train Cameroonians. If you look at most of the government schools we have in Cameroon, Mr. Liu, you will agree with me that there are at least 100 to 150 francs from the central or the main town. The reason is because one thing about studies and reading even is it doesn't like noise. Most of the children who read and succeed well in exams are children who get up at times around 4 a.m. when places are calm, where even the birds are not doing anything, no sound. Where even the TVs are not on, nothing is on. Around 4 a.m. you pick it up, even 4, 5, 6. Those 2 hours are good. At 6 a.m. you're preparing for school. That is the best moment to read. But now if you have an institution that is in an area where the institution, first of all, is at a bus station. Not only at a bus station, but it has noise from 6 a.m. when you come to school till the time you go. And most of the institutions, around 1 p.m. Mr. Liu, is time that most bars go and put their music. It's really making noise and you're getting the noise. At that moment, how do children concentrate? Look at the distance that the University of Boya has from the main road. It's a long distance. There's a distance that I don't know what the shuttle is still on, the bus shuttle that is away. That's a distance that you even come and get at the gate of the university, and you can still take a taxi. It is conducive. It is true that you may now go there and do any other thing, but I just feel the first thing I'm looking at, Mr. Leo, is I'm not even looking at the structures. I'm looking at the fact that the position of these institutions. We may be blaming the students for getting involved into other things, but does the environment not push them? One of my madams, Madam Zimairam, was told us that there are some temptations that you don't push children into. If you get up as a father and you leave, say, granite sweet on the table or sugar, and you go to the office, a child may pick one of the lumps of sugar and chew. Not that I wanted to steal, but just because the child was in an environment that is tempting. And I feel that it is time that the minister of who is concerned, or the different ministries that are concerned with granting of these licenses for school, they should also have a rethink by sending people in the different ministries to come down to the field, Mr. Liu. And at times, even when you look at some of the names, if it is not business, when you call a school that Kum and Sons Bilingual Institution, that's the name of a school like that. So I just feel that once we have the authorities coming down to the field, first of all, to assess the land, the position is very important. Is the position of the institution okay? Okay. Has the school got a structure that is befitting for studies? Once we have this trash out, the next thing now we can be looking at is how to take away the enjoyment spots around this area. When you go to most universities, state universities, they have school canteens. The one thing that is for sure is that anything alcohol will not be sold in the canteen. But you can get it around. There are people who smuggle it around the school to make to make money. But within the canteens of the school ensures that nothing of that sort is sold. So, Mr. Leo, for us to come out of this problem, which to me is a very great problem, is to first of all tighten the procedure through which people get authorizations to open institutions in Cameroon. Dr.
Dimancho, are parents so helpless, the students themselves? Are they out of choices? Are they imposed, obliged to send their children to existing schools? Because can they not also gather themselves to ask these proprietors to have some mercy for the children? Because how do you create a school and all you seek is for children to come and sit and study without considering the space? I don't know how your university looks, but the Catholics, they have land in Douala. I can imagine where the St. Jerome is. But how do we get parents to touch the consciences of these guys who are creating schools? They're struggling to defend that. Okay, that they were met by the population.
Mr. Ro, the parents themselves are partisan with what is happening. Parents do not want to send their children in far off places. I am not at St. Jerome. I'm at the Catholic University of Central Africa. Do you know where it's situated? They call it Yansoki.
Okay.
That is after Yassa, inside
one
village.
What we're talking.
A whole world.
Location. The location.
It is a whole world there. If you go there, it's like a whole village that they have taken.
Don't you people have?
And they do. Oh. They do. And now you realize that parents do not want to go. I mean, most parents, of course, I know that we are prominent there because it's a University of Central Africa. People come from Chad, Gabon, even from France, they come there. But then it's a quiet environment where anybody who enters, they want to remain. The parents who come, they appreciate the environment. But the point is that most parents around in township, they don't want to get into those kind of places where they have to leave children to go to far off places.
Because they have choices. They have so many schools around.
Yeah, that is the thing. But should they...
In secondary school, where did you study?
Well, of course, we are saying the same thing.
We checked
to school.
But
today already, we have children and parents themselves who don't want to stress to go to school. Yeah, parents... Well, and one way I understand with them too, the financial stress in township. But the villages, I mean, we should have that. Now, Mr. One of the issues that we should talk about also is that when it comes to private schools, it is left into the hands of illiterates. who do as business. I made a study here in Douala, and I realized that most of the private Anglophone schools, primary schools, primary, for example, in Douala are owned by business people of a particular tribe who are not even Anglophones and who run the schools as business. You will even be surprised that most of those businesses around the schools, they are still the one who run the businesses. Yeah, you'll be shocked. Do a study. Why? Because when you get to those schools, the secretary is a family member. The cashier is a family member. The gate man is a family member on all this. So why would you not think that even the businesses around are still run by a family?
Your call auntie, what is auntie doing in the village? She come and set up.
Come and set up. Exactly. That is what is happening.
What is your daughter doing in the village?
Come and sit here. That is it. That's what is happening. And one moment you realize that when the government even refused that they should not sell books in school, now they took the bookshops from school and settled them out of the campus of school. That's what caused also congestion. Those bookshops around the area are owned by those the school owners. Yeah. That is what is happening, because the educational system has been abandoned to those who do not know what it is. I mean, we have a system that is supposed to regularize these things, but people are concerned about stealing, corruption, and all of those. So it is a collective fight that we have to indulge into. It is not a fight of one person. Do you know that at one moment, even around the University of Douala here, of course, I give some classes there, and that there is the duo of Douala 5 who one moment came and closed up the bars around the area, closed up bars. And before it was 1 month gone, the bars came back. And then you ask yourself, what was the closing? In order just to let people come and pay some money and then re-establish. They came full-fledged and re-established. And then you ask yourself, is it a ping-pong game, or is it a kind of a game they are playing, or what? And that was done because people complained that how can you having bars all around and all this is about. Now they came and it was like a sham. You know, they came and closed, and before long it came back. So it is a collective work that even the administrators themselves have to be honest about to make the fight. And it's a simple fight to fight there. Like Doc was saying here about the entrance to University of Chang, where you have, the route is even already almost lessened because you find people business. Why is it so? It is so because somebody is owning those, they are paying money to somebody. And somebody doesn't care if the school thrives or not. He cares about what goes into his pocket. And we approach those people, we approach thieves instead of people who can bring development to our people. Those are people, when they come to ceremonies, want to give them chieftaincy titles or in our villages and all of those. And there are people who are killing our educational system. Education is that kind of a thing that is also psychological, that if you do not manage it well, we keep on talking about moral decadence, we keep on talking about this, but we forget to see that this is also from where we are coming from and from what we are instituted around our campuses. How do you imagine that? I mean, you have a school that it's like, you know, a marketplace. Students come, and most of them hide in some of those places, drink their beer. Of course, we have seen what is happening in schools today. Students even put beer in their stuffs. And guess what? Where do they buy those beers? They buy beside the school. They get into those bars and they buy beer. And the point is that when you tempt people, yes, Prince Julius talks about a cube of sugar, a chai, it's out of temptation. Some things are done out of temptation. That when it is beside you, you want to do it. You come and see people doing it, you are tempted to do it. This is one of the things that we have to fight. But nobody seems to. The administrators who are there, even in government institutions where that is already happening, somebody will sit and say, it is not my responsibility. Yes, you say, it's not my responsibility to go and drive people around the places. Now you go to the private. The private say, I even love these people coming around, because when there are so many around here, they see that this place is popular. And many people send children here. So there are a lot of ramifications to these things that we have to talk about, and that somebody somewhere needs to do their job. There's a job that's not being done. And then we are asking ourselves, starting from the authorization of the school, a job is not being done. Looking at the surface area of land before granting. Because as a school, I mean, you must have a playground. Any school that does not have a playground, I know that that school should not be authorized. There's even
a saying that study without play makes Jack a dull boy. That saying is very, very important. That you cannot have a school that is just congested, that children do not even have a playground. Even a small playground that you have, you go and put against. And two, the halls, even where students study. Have you entered some schools and see where students study? It is horrible. They are stuffed. And then you ask yourself, you see clearly that this thing is business. So starting from authorization to the construction of the school and to the authorization again to start the school. When we start the beginning of each year, there is always a list that the minister comes out. You all see that list that these schools have been banned not to operate. I used to see that list every year. And you see that those schools that are banned not to operate, before long, the schools are operating. And then you ask yourself, when did they go? And then, in their campuses, how did they fulfill the conditions for operating as a school, that the next academic year, you still see the school they operate? So it is something that we have to work on, and somebody somewhere is holding the key to opening the door of this good education we need in Cameroon. And getting back from authorization, you also now need to put some garden food, some important headline things that must be before on the surrounding of the school before the school operates. It is very, very important that if it is a bar, it should have this distance. We need to have measurements. Because it's not just enough of saying that there should be no bar or there should not this. Tell them that it needs to have this distance away. When you just say that no bar, not everybody can set it wherever he wants to. But if you say that in 500 meters, in 1,000 meters and whatsoever, we don't have to have a bar around here, it is understood. We don't have to need to have a gambling place around here. It is understood. But nobody wants to take responsibility because all those things are pinned there. Somebody is eating from it. A taxation is eating from it. The local administrators are eating from it. This is what is happening. So it is important. It's just like somebody having his full documents, and now the police people are angry that you have your full documents. They don't know what to ask from you any longer. So they must accept this thing to be there so that they should have what they need to have. So it is all along a collective effort, even from the goodwill citizen. Somebody you call it bona fide citizen. We need that collective effort from them. People who should be able to report. It's not just about that, even the churches. We have had churches who make a lot of noise around the area. Where schools are going on, you find churches shouting. We also need to regularize that. It's important.
Okay. Now, what urgent policies or measures should be put in place to protect the school environment?
Thank you, Mr. Liu. Again, I turn to the government. And turning to the government, it is that they should act. Somebody somewhere is not doing what he or she needs to do. Because the first thing, looking at, especially the private sector, looking at where some of these schools are located, I don't know if those who came to check, before the school is being constructed, like they really validated that, okay, you can go ahead, it's strategically located, it's good. So we want to think corruption is playing a very big role in this. So it starts by killing the corruption in the system, because corruption itself is like a cankerworm that has left no sector untouched. And the fight against corruption is not a fight that should be done by a particular person. It is a collective fight. You who is giving the money and the person who is receiving it. So we need to kill all such devices within. And the state itself should not only end at going to check to ensure that, okay, there is a building, okay, the land is good. You should also bring in what we call a follow-up committee that will always pass from time to time. You go back there to be sure that, yes, the numbers of kilometer, or is it meter square, that these people told us they have to construct, we are here to check if it is actually what was written. The amphitheaters, we are here to check. The lecturers who are teaching, we are here to check. Because it might surprise you to know that we have some institutions here in this Cameroon that you can find maybe even an HND holder standing in a class to maybe teach lessons on bachelor's degree and why not masters. And just because such people are being paid, you know, lesser amounts and they don't complain and they see it as normal, they just normalize the whole thing. So I just want to plead with the state to put up supervisory bodies that will always, from time to time, visit these institutions to check and be sure that first those who are giving the knowledge to their citizens, that's to the students, they themselves, they are up to it. The environment that the students are learning there is a conducive environment. And we should understand that, yes, all learning without play makes Jack a dull boy. We need the playgrounds too. So all of these measures should be put in place and well respected by the state. Then the parents, who are the guardians of these students, they also have a role to play in this. They should forget about what I want to call comfort zone here. Because most parents, they believe or they have this idea that my child must go to school just the school that is closer to the house. We should eradicate such mentality. Because if the environment itself is toxic, you will not insist on having your child school there just because it is closer to the house. It's not possible. You better send your child far off, knowing that the child is going in for quality education. Because, you know, knowledge is something that I don't know how it goes with noise. I don't know how it goes with noise. And I want to think that all of these bars, especially, they have a negative effect on the lives of all these children, especially from pupils to students. Just picture a nursery school child living in a house where we don't even have TV. But here has seen, is it Collet La Petite or what? And you start asking yourself in nursery 2, where did you hear this? They hear from the bars closer to the school. So the state needs to come in and do a whole lot of things in trying to regulate this sector. The parents themselves, they have a role to play. Even the institutions, that's the owners of the institutions. It is true they are out for profit maximization to a greater extent. But again, they should have in them what I call a sense of responsibility. It should not be all about money. It should be about impact. What impact are you creating in the lives of these students? When you go back home, you sleep on your bed and lie. Are you okay with the fact that yes, you have successfully executed a good task or a good job by constructing your school and providing the service or services in quote the way you're doing? So it's a collective effort by everybody, all hands on deck, to ensure that things move the way they have to move for us to have a flourishing educational system in Cameroon.
Okay, what should be done urgently, especially from the perspective of the proprietors themselves?
The first thing is that proprietors should understand that education is not for sale. I think one of your latest publication has got to do with love is not for sale. Proprietors need to also understand that education is not for sale. Professor Bernard Fondon once said that the university is not for the mindless mob, but for the talented 10. It's not a crowd. It's not selling education. Most of the institutions we have out there, it's a pity that most of the proprietors, like Dr. Nzimanchu said, and it's extremely correct, a majority of those institutions are owned by businessmen. Go around and see the names. Collège Bilingue Kenfak, Collège Bilingue. You start, does the name even, is the name even academic? Because in advertisement, they tell you, they'll teach you that if the title of the product doesn't sell that product, you have lost 90% of those you want to get. If doctor wants to become fair just now, there's a product called immediate clear. He thinks that as you get it is now. So some of those names, when you start looking at the names that people give to institutions, because someone has his name. I'm not saying that people should not, but we start looking at those institutions, Mr. Liu, just from the names, it tells you that a proprietor is a businessman. And that is why a colleague lamented to me and told me that he was shocked that in an institution they told him, we are not interested in the certificates, how many students will you bring? And that's the same thing doctor said here. Most of the institutions will not want to get someone who has a PhD to come teach. Why? Because you're expensive. Why not go for someone who is less expensive? And I think that these are business people. So what should be done urgently, Mr. Liu? First of all, let proprietors understand that an institution, a school, is where moral values are inculcated into children. A school is an environment where we build leaders. And I think that our parents also need to play a great role in it, Mr. Liu. You should also mind, we understand that times are hard. Some of these parents will not want to send their children to these institutions, but the times are hard on them. Most people would have loved to send their children to Sase without publicity for them, to Bishop Reagan. They want to send children there, to Regina Pastors. But no, the means is not there. So, like they always say that if the desirable is not available, let the available be the desirable. They now tend to go closest to these institutions that sell anything to them. Because at least if the child stays in the house the whole academic year, it is going to be as if you're the poorest person in your entire neighborhood. So what do? You look for the cheap institution that is beside you and you send your child there.
Okay.
Mr. Liu, one thing that I still want to say is the fact that even far from the ministers of education, basic, secondary, higher and vocational, we have regional delegates, subdivisional delegates, and divisional delegates. And I believe that, like Doctor said, these are facts, what he said, they are just facts. When we're in the field, we see these things. Because a communique comes out 1 week or 2 weeks to the start of an academic year. Prince Academy will not operate because of this disease. But now, 2 weeks when the schools are to start, the school is operating. It tells you that maybe the person who sent that communique wanted you to come and visit him. And maybe after visiting him, let the school go on. And I think that when we are doing this, we are killing the educational system. Mr. Liu, most all areas that we come from, they have subdivisional delegates for all the education, basic, secondary, and higher. What do? Sit in their offices? No. Go to the field. If you look at that, an institution does not have what it takes to operate. Shut it down. Because it's not only about creating a school. And most of these schools, Mr. Liu, will be shocked that some of these schools, they have not seen any person to operate anything. They just go to one neighborhood in one faraway quarter, look for a 4-story build, like I said, a 4-room house, divide it into one of the rooms has 2 classes. That's already 8 classrooms. So you have your class 1 to class 6. And you can now make 1 A and B for some other classes. And what you do is I look for the divisional delegate who is within that your area and talk like a Cameroonian with him. And after talking, you keep operating now. You're operating and people think that maybe Yaoundé is aware that you're operating, whereas it's not the case. So let us understand, Mr. Liu, that the education of our brothers, it's very, very fundamental, because some of the areas where children go to, they start being exposed to lots of ills that becomes difficult for them in the society. So let us consider that education should not be business. There are lots of lucrative businesses that people can do out there. And one of those businesses should not be education. Okay,
there should not be education. Now, what should we do? Should the councils not themselves not also look into this, because this constitutes what we call urban disorder? Almost nothing is organized.
Yeah, of course. There is urban disorder, there is pollution, there is all of those things that engulf. And it contributes also to the feuds, the deaths are all around. And I even think now that they should start rating schools. Yes, I mean, schools should be rated now on cleanliness, educational, and all of those things. And I think when I also remember we should do things according to Bernard Fonlon's, genuine intellectual, Well, I know of a school, someone in Douala who owns 3 schools, and the schools are given the names of the children, the 3 children, Just to tell you what Prince Joe is saying, that it is all about business, and that in creating some of these schools, the council needs to be implicated. It is not just about Yaoundé. And now, the issue of hierarchy now in authorization and some of this now brings a problem. That you go to Yaoundé, you take an authorization to pin a school in a particular council. Meanwhile, the council is supposed to be consulted to see what, even in terms of risk, there are many schools that have collapsed in this Douala. There are many schools that have been built in very risky places, in marshy areas, in floods. And you find that during rainy season, children don't go there. When it is rainy season, it is flooded. So you just know that day is public holiday for the children. When rain is threatening to fall, they close area. Tell the children, go back home, rain is threatening. So the council needs to be implicated in some of these things, because they need to do the study to know whether this land, that this coal is being built, we go deal here with children that we need to take care of. This land, this place that is this school being built, is it fit to host this school? And even talking about the building, when you want to look at the number of the size of the building, the number of story building that they build, is it fit to be built in that particular place? Because that needs to be taken into consideration. You will not go to a marshy place and you are not supposed to put over 2-3-story building, and you are putting 5-story building because they have the money. We have seen this happening in Douala here. Not only with school, even with other areas, where you just see a very tall building in a very, very marshy place. And then you ask yourself, but when rain falls, if something really starts happening here, it's all disaster. So this contributes to what we call urban disorder. And the councils, they need to be implicated. But what do we do when the councils themselves are hungry and thirsty for money, whereby you can't give them whatever you give and they stay silent? This is very, very important for us as a community, as Christian, not really Christian per se, but moral builders, that we are trying to form this country, that all of us should get into that. That we should have a place where we can even report. Yes, we should be able to have a place where if somebody is building that kind of thing in a quarter, and you know about it, you know the risk of that thing, you should be able to report. So it is important. What is the use of the councils? Is the council only to sit there, go around, collect, or seal shops? No, it is also in this regard. Or the council is only there to see how people are building in the quarters. They go seal or take what they are taking from there and they leave. No, it is important that we get them implicated in this. So that if they are implicated, then we know that we are in safety. We know that after the issue of overpopulation, because there's also the issue of overpopulation in a particular place. Many schools, it's just like you have pharmacies where you have a distance from where you have to maintain from one pharmacy to the other. That's one thing people don't know. Yes, you have a distance that you have to maintain before you build the next pharmacy. And that should happen. Do you just come and concentrate certain schools or certain businesses because you think that there is a population there? It's not really that. So that should be looked into. And the issue of churches and all of bars and all that, that is important, that we should be able to get into that. If we have a vision, because we see that there is no vision in anything. What is a survival of the fittest? The fittest we are talking about. Someone will come and tell you that he has his money and he can be able to buy whatever or do whatever thing he wants to do. So we need to take them to task. And this is what we have to do when we are electing new officials. When we see that there is this disorder, there's a way to punish them. We vote them out. But then, can you vote them out? What do? They also use the same money they are taking for bribe to bribe people and bribe their minds. This is very important that all of us, if we want to build this country, we must sacrifice. And the issue of sacrifice that we do not want to make. We have to make that sacrifice if we want a beautiful area. Yes, it's just that you also constructing in some areas. You should ask yourself whether where I'm constructing, whether it is fit for a home. It is not just about the institution we're talking about. So it goes round and round and round and round, that the country, for the country will be built, all of us must put our hands on deck and get this country the right way.
Okay, we will end with this message I'm receiving from the Southwest region. Somebody is concerned for the life of a lady. She fears that what happened to the lady in Yaoundé may happen to a case that she is witnessing, because we had a program yesterday where we said when you notice certain things, people should not just watch on. They should raise an alarm and see how we can help the situation. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Please, there is something deeply troubling that I feel compelled to share with you. It concerns my neighbor, a woman whose situation is extremely distressing and in many ways alarming. She has 4 children with a man she lives with, though they are not legally married. Unfortunately, the man has completely neglected his responsibilities towards her and the children. He provides no support, yet he lives in the same house with another woman, occupying a different room, while the mother of his children struggles daily. The woman is doing everything within her power to care for her children, but the burden is overwhelming. Feeding, schooling, and basic care have become nearly impossible. As neighbors, we have tried to help as much as we can, but our support is not sufficient. She has sought help from the quarter head, the police, and the state council, but sadly, no meaningful assistance has come forth. Her family has also tried to support her, but they are now exhausted and unable to continue. At this point, she is desperate and vulnerable, willing to accept help from anyone simply to survive and protect her children. Given the tragic events we have seen elsewhere involving families under extreme pressure, I fear what could happen if nothing is done. The woman currently survives by selling plantains, but she has no capital to continue her small business. This has further worsened her situation and her ability to provide for her children. The man involved has refused to engage in any form of dialogue. He is not willing to speak with neighbors, family members, or any mediator. To be clear, the objective is not to force reconciliation between the couple. The primary concern is the safety, welfare, and well-being of the children, who are innocent and currently at risk due to neglect and hardship. I felt it was important to bring this to your attention because I believe you may be able to help, or at least draw attention to this situation to prevent a potential tragedy. Thank you very much for your time and understanding. This case is in the Southwest region. If you followed this message and felt touched, you want to assist this lady and the children, please write to me using my numbers, and I will put you in contact with the lady concerned so that in any way possible you can help her. So we are going to be drawing the curtains for tonight's edition of the program. Thank you for coming, Dr. Ndimanjo.
Thanks so much, Mr. Liu. And just to say that in line with what we have just read, we got a case yesterday where a man just battered the wife and threw her out of the house last night, here in Douala even. So we are working on that case too. Okay. Yeah, thanks so much. And we need to, be whistleblowers in issues like this so that we save lives. Thanks so much.
Thank you too for coming, Dr. Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Liu. It's always a pleasure.
And also to you. Thank you for coming, Prince.
It's a privilege sharing the platform with very intelligent gentlemen, Mr. Liu, and the case that they've raised, I think that some of those cases occur every day, and it's good. I want to appreciate the brother who felt that he should bring it to public notice, because most people are dying in silence. The lady who took the life of her 3 children in Yaoundé and took her own life, when I read what she was going through, it tells you that she had been going through a lot, but maybe did not actually have someone to share with. I think that depression is real, and at times when someone loves, especially for women, when a woman loves, she can go to any extent. So maybe the man from Buya has put in the right quarters, because I trust what...
You taught in the Southwest? Were you a teacher?
Yeah.
Okay, because
champions.
Okay, champions in my 16.
In my 16. I thought we had some married moment there.
Okay, because the person who is sending this message
knows me.
Says my teacher Prince is now talking. Okay,
okay.
We want to thank.
I want to thank the Mr. J people for always watching. They are always live on the program.
Please, thank you, and to you, Eli and Teta, for producing this edition of the program, and also to all of you for taking out time to watch this edition of Prime Hour. Stay blessed. Bye bye.